Hello everyone, welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. And you all had Mackenzie and I very worried at the beginning of today's show when I first sent out the notifications and I put up that splash screen at the beginning, because Mackenzie and I were the only ones in the live chat, which is very unusual. Mackenzie, we're all okay. There's heaps of people that have joined us today. Wherever you are joining us from anywhere in the world, I hope you are safe, healthy, and in good voice. It's so good to be spending the next 50 minutes or so with you. And if you are new to the show, welcome. And we don't just do a show here. You are actually, you're connecting with a community. These are people, and I was sharing this with a friend just the other day. You know, this online community, I feel like I have gotten to know so many of you just by virtue of the fact that we hang out every Monday, 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We hang out here online, and this online community is something that I'm really proud to be a part of. Yes, I am the fearless leader of Voice Essentials, but this would not be a community if it was just me in it. The community is us, and so I want you to know I really look forward to hanging out with you every Monday, where we get to talk about something that I am so passionate about, and that is your voice and your ability to use your voice in a fulfilling, sustainable, healthy, authentic way. Because as you know, I believe it is the birthright of every human being to sing, and that means you and me. And so we're going to be doing that today. Today's a Q&A. And you know, we're going to get to your questions, of course, as usual. If you do have a question, write it down in the live chat. And Linda, the fearless, wonderful Linda, will throw your question into a document that I can see live, and then I will answer those. If you want to have your question prioritized, because we just go through them chronologically, but if you want to jump up the queue, the way to do that is to put in a super chat, throw in a few dollars. All of those proceeds go back into the support of the channel, and we would love to have that support. But as a thanks, we prioritize your question when you do put in a super chat, and your question will be bumped up the list. Before we get to your questions, and there are already 4 questions already slated to go. We usually get through about, Linda, we're getting through about 8 to 10 questions at the moment. So we're already halfway. Before we get on to questions, some housekeeping. So next week we have Jenny Reeves coming on, a very special friend of mine. She is a singing teacher down in New South Wales, and not just any part of New South Wales, Jindabyne, New South Wales, and Jenny is a really good friend, and so good that I have, you know, stayed at her house down in Jindy, and we have spent countless hours at conferences together, and I love Jenny and her husband Trevor. And anyway, Jenny's coming onto the show. She teaches a lot of young voices. It's something that we don't spend a lot of time talking about here at Voice Essentials, because I mostly teach, you know, the adult voice. That's not to say I don't teach the younger voice, but our channel tends to orientate to the older ones. And so I wanted to have Jenny come on, someone who spends a bit more time with young voice. That is sort of late primary into teenagehood. And Jenny and I are going to talk about that. So I know there's a few of you who do regularly watch the show, whether it be live or whether it be as a replay, who are in that younger bracket. Next week's show is one that you don't want to miss, because Jenny is going to be able to really respond to a lot of really great questions from you and from me, and besides which, it's just going to be good to hang out and for me to introduce you to Jenny, who is a fab person. We then will have 2 more guests for the remainder of the year who I've already lined up. It's all locked in. So we're going to be, firstly, in 3 weeks' time, we're going to be having Dr. Belinda McMahon. And Belinda is going to be coming on. Belinda is also an Australian colleague, someone who I've spent a lot of time with. You're going to love her. And she's going to come on, and her specialty, in fact, she's talking for the Australian Voice Association. You might recall, as of up until the end of last year, I was the national president for the AVA, the Australian Voice Association. Well, she is guest presenting in a webinar for the AVA, I think tomorrow night. It might even be tonight. She's talking about vocal identity. And I'm really excited because guess what she's going to do? So she's presenting for the AVA, but then she's going to come on to our show and she's going to talk about the very same subject. How fortunate are we? We have so many fabulous people really bringing like top tier expertise to us every week. And so I'm looking forward to having Belinda join us in 3 weeks. And then in 5 weeks' time, we are going to be having Professor Brian Gill back on the show. Now, you may recall Professor Brian Gill. He's a US-based singing teacher and researcher. And we had Brian on the show like pretty much to the day. It'll be 12 months ago. And I don't know if you recall, but at the end of the last year, I was having a lot of technical problems with audio, and all sorts of issues were going on with the live show. Do we tempt fate? And I say, I'm pretty sure we've got that all ironed out now. It all seems to be going pretty well. And I'm just checking. Now that I said that, I feel really nervous because I feel like I've just poked the monkey. But anyway, things seem to be going pretty well technically. So we're going to have Brian back on. Brian was so gracious, you know, with the issues that we had during Brian's show last year. I was a bit nervous he'd be going, I don't want to go and spend time with that hack again. But no, he is coming back on. He was so keen to come and spend some time with us again. So I'll tell you a bit more about what we'll be talking with Brian about in 5 weeks. But again, just such excellent people. And that is going to take us all the way through till the end of the year. As you know, I typically, and I'll be doing the same this year, we shelve the online show. We put the online show into what do bears do? They hibernate. So we hibernate the live show for 2 months. We don't do the live show during December and January, which is kind of the summer / holiday season here in Australia. And so our live shows are going to take us all the way through to the end of November. And then we will come back for a new exciting year in 2022. But that's what's happening with our guests between now and the end of the year. I'm really keen to learn how you've been enjoying the new specialist sessions. I've got a new specialist session going live. These are pre-recorded events, sort of recordings of live, you know, just snippets of time in my live lessons with my private students. I'm really keen for you to watch those, give me feedback. I'm learning the process of doing them and trying to really explore a new way of delivering content to you. And I'm putting those up every second week. And so there's a new one. In fact, I think if memory serves, this Wednesday, Linda is on. So if you've never met Linda before, from memory, Linda, I think I've got the specialist session from one of our lessons going live this week. So make sure you check that out. And then one more thing before we get to your questions, which we are going to do. I wanted to show you, oh, hang on a second. Let me get rid of that. Let me jump over here. So this is the Facebook community. So many of you are part of that already. We've got 1.1 thousand community members, and it's such a wonderful place where we all hang out during the week. between shows, and we share our recordings with each other. We ask questions, and so if you're not already a part of the Facebook community, just type in Facebook, just type in Dr. Dan's Voice Essentials. It is a private group, so you do have to request your being allowed to be a part of the group. You must acknowledge and accept the group admin rules, which you can have a read of as a part of that, and then you join in. But what I wanted to talk to you about was last week I posted this question, and that was about the fact that we are... oh, hang on a second. I haven't even put that over there. Let me put that there. That'll be helpful. Right, so this is what we're looking at. So this is the Facebook group, okay? There we go. And down here, we have a question that I posted last week, and it was about the new program, the new online course that I'm starting to develop. And I put up a question about, you know, what am I going to call it? And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to ask you all. What do you think? Now, so far, the singers, when I first put the questions up, the question, there was only about 4 or 5 selections, and most of you have voted for the singer's starting guide. And so I thought, as a small massage of that, the working title, it's in draft. I'm not committing to anything. The working title at this stage is going to be Dr. Dan's Singer's Starting Guide. So there you go. You heard it from me first, what the working draft title will be. Not looking anything in. But look, I'd love, if you haven't already voted, jump over onto the Facebook community page and put your vote in. Let me know what you think, and I'd be keen to you know, get your feedback. You know, it's an organic, ever-moving space. So hopefully you can do that and be a part of, you know, helping me to develop this product. I started writing the video scripts last week. I've already spoken to my graphic editor. I've already spoken to my video editor. Basically what I'm trying to tell you is this is happening, and I think most of you know me well enough now to know that when I start something, it will get finished, and my hope is that we would be launching sometime around April next year. But of course I will keep you up to date with that and let you know everything there is to know about that course. It is going to be a course that really starts you off on the right foot, and we're going to look at what is a note, how do you sing a note, what is pitch, how do you accurately sing pitch. And that's a phone call, which I'm going to get rid of that because I don't know who that is. Anything can happen during a live show. And so anywho, so yeah, where was I? I was talking about the course. So I'll tell you more about that. We'll get into our live questions. I'm now very concerned that was Linda. Linda, let me know in the document whether that was you or not you, and I'll be sure to respond accordingly if it was, and if there's something you need to know. Everything happens when we're live. Okay, let's jump in here. Let's get to your questions, and I'll hopefully bring you some answers and make a little bit more sense than I am right now. Okay, let's talk some questions. And Linda has just written, no, it was not me. I didn't think it would be, but you know, you just never know. Okay, Real Music, who got their question, I don't know. Oh, well, what if they got their question in really early, so early that it didn't actually make it onto the live chat? What if a female singer can support and hit C sharp 1, okay, so really low, G2 and C3, and her comfortable range in belting is in the mid-range, and her range is C sharp 1 to C sharp 7. Is there possibility that she's still contralto? She can still belt G5 to C sharp 6 using masked mix. Well, firstly, if that is what you or someone else that you're referring to is able to do, wowzers, that would be an incredibly wide range, and that's wonderful. I don't know, no material immediately jumps to mind that you can, you know, specifically take advantage of using that range, other than if you were to go looking for certain Mariah Carey pieces, for example, or you know, if you were to sing a song like Defying Gravity, which has quite an extensive range, doesn't it, Linda? Because you know, there's just, most songs really sit within maximum 2 octaves. If you've got a really workable, solid 2-octave range, then you have the capacity to sing the vast majority of material, even within contemporary material. There are definitely those songs that sit outside of that 2-octave range, but you know, 2 octaves is quite a bit, and will do you quite well. But of course, in this case, Real Music, you're suggesting C sharp 1 to C sharp 7, which gives us a 6-octave range, which is quite extraordinary. Do we classify that voice as contralto? Well, that's really going to come down to where your prima voce is. Now, I do want to just on this point, in my video, my most well-watched video, I think it's up to 1.6 or 1.7 million views, about voice types, I do use the term prima voce. It's a term that was used with me when I was going through my undergraduate studies back in the Queensland Conservatorium of Music. Now, if memory serves, it was the term we used to identify that prime voice, prima voce, that prime voice, first voice where we feel most comfortable, and then seconda voce, the secondary voice, that which sits outside of that. Prima voce is because tessitura is a word, an Italian term, also used to describe the mean average of notes. And I have always used the term tessitura to describe the mean value of notes, the median value of notes within a song, instead of, and I've always used prima voce to describe prime voice. So for those of you who have been asking, or if you're interested, tessitura can mean the same thing as prima voce, but yeah, it gets a bit confusing, doesn't it? This is one of the challenges in voice, is that there's no real definite codified set of, well, there are codified terms, but there's also a lot of crossover in our language and our understanding, and it becomes quite challenging. Nonetheless, back to Real Music. So it comes back to where your prima voce, tessitura, would be most comfortable in sitting, and so if you find that your voice wants to, your prime voice, the voice where you feel like you could sing in all day, sits in that lower end of your voice, then contralto may still be the right use of label for you. Remembering that, in fact, I did an interview with Kerry Ho. Many of you know Kerry Ho from the Songbird Tree. She's got a YouTube channel. We had Kerry on here on the show earlier in the year, and Kerry interviewed me. I'll share that when it goes live onto the Facebook group in the next couple of weeks. but I was sharing with Kerry that when I was going through uni, and then when I was doing my early career sort of corporate work, I used to sing with a guy by the name of Adam Lopez. He's a friend. He's a singing teacher local to here. In fact, do you know what I need? I probably need to try and get Adam onto the show. Adam had, and still, I think, still holds the Guinness Book World Records. I think I've mentioned Adam before, for having the highest sung note, I think, of male or female voice, but certainly of male, where he was recorded as singing a note off the top end of the keyboard, like way off the top. And so far higher than I can ever sing. And yet, interestingly, I was always, whenever we were hired to sing together, and we were hired to sing together many times, I was always engaged as the tenor, and Adam was engaged as the baritone. Now, the reason for that is because Adam had this wonderfully rich voice, far richer timbre than I have, and so my prima voce sat higher than Adam's, certainly in your general everyday singing. There's no question Adam could sing higher than me, and almost certainly still can, but yet I was always hired as the higher voice. And so I think that's a really interesting point to be made when we think about this idea of voice labeling and classification. So I hope that makes some sense for you. Real music. Okay, let's jump over to here. So just coming over to Wicco's question, one of our regulars, as many of you know. And so Wicco is asking, how are you so generous and oh, okay. I did not read this question before. So Wicco, I think you've been about to be very kind to me. I'll read the question as I see it. How are you so generous and kind to give off live streams for free? It significantly helped me, so I just wanted to take this moment to thank you very, very much, Dr. Dan. Wicco, you are more than welcome. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for being a part of this community. I love hanging out here every week with you all. Most weeks. We weren't together last week, were we, because of a public holiday? But here in Australia, here in Brisbane, Australia. But look, I love hanging out with you guys. I am passionate about you realizing the full potential of your singing voice. Truth be told, and I don't think any of you would be too surprised to learn, this is me doing this is a part of my business as a singing teacher, and I don't shy away from that. But what I love about what I do is that what I do helps people like you, Wicco. So I think that's helpful. Okay, there's a slight mismatch in vision and audio for some of you, and I don't know why that would be. But because Linda is saying there's 100, her reception is 100%, so that might be there might be some buffering going on just with the internet. You know how it is, everyone. So just hang in there. I can see Mackenzie saying it's all better now. So thanks for being patient. There's nothing I can kind of do about those sort of technical issues. But everything at my end seems to be running pretty smoothly. Okay, Nellie Phillips. I'm still lagging in getting back on track with lessons. Life keeps getting in the way. Any suggestions? Nellie, first of all, I want to encourage you to be, what would be the right way to put this? Be gracious to yourself. I say to my private students all the time, you know, life is what happens after we plan it. You know, you can have your whole week laid out. You can have the rest of, you know, the next. Can I let you in a little secret? I've already planned pretty much every week for the 2022 year. Now, I'm going to hold on to that very loosely, but it's because of the way the YouTube channel thing happens and developing new courses that I kind of had to look that far ahead. But, you know, at the same time, I'm going to have to be really gracious to myself to not let that, you know, that schedule that you know, October Daniel of 2021 has set out, because October 2021 Daniel doesn't know what's going to happen, you know, in March, April, May, June of 22. So I always say to students, be gracious to yourself. Sometimes you are going to go through chapters, times in your life where things don't happen as easily as you would like them to, and that's going to include your singing practice. But here's the thing, singing will always be there waiting for you to step back into it again. I have taken quite a bit of time, more time than my wife would have liked me to have. I've taken quite a bit of time off from my gym visits, and I started back this morning. And part of the reason has been COVID and all those sorts of things, and gyms. Yeah, it's a long story. But the long and the short of it is I am back today. Now, but in going back today, and I got there at 5 a.m. in the morning, it's one of the reasons why it's a bit of a challenge to get there, is I've got to go so early, is in going back today, I really did say to myself, well, Daniel, this is going to be your first time back. You haven't been there for a number of months. Go easy on your body. Don't just go hard because you're excited to be back. Ease yourself back in, Daniel. And so I probably went a little bit too hard on the rowing machine. But anyway, the long story short is I've got to re-establish the fitness of actually developing my fitness. And the same thing goes with your singing. You know, if you have periods off with your voice, then your muscle fitness, your match fitness of that singing practice will have come off the boil a bit. So just ease yourself back in, give yourself a couple of weeks. And this is the thing that you do have to be conscious of at times where you do have these chapters of life that don't allow you to get to your singing performance, singing practice. And I'm going to get rid of that. There's phone calls coming in here left, right, and center today. So anyway, so have a think about that, Nellie, and hopefully you can think about just getting back into things slowly but surely, but be gracious to yourself, because life is what happens after we've planned it. Titus Lee, have you ever heard the concept of thinking down when singing high or high? If so, would you elaborate on that? I certainly can elaborate on that. So the thing about singing down, these are all visualization tools, and the singing teaching community goes through these phases, and it does tend to be a bit pendulum-like. You know, at one point in history, we not too long ago, we were boo-hooing visualization. Literally only just last week, the end of last week, I saw a respected colleague share an Instagram sort of a short video of a singing teacher talking about how powerful visualization is. So, you know, I always sit somewhere in the middle constantly. I am a moderate, and I do understand the value of visualization, but I also understand that it has limits. And in fact, it will have more value for one student and less value for another. And as a singing teacher, my job is to identify in my communication with my student where that visualization is going to land. Is it going to be positive? Is it going to be not so positive? And to teach accordingly. So when we talk about singing down onto the note, we're thinking more often of pitch And so that concept is a pretty well practiced one across the board, and a lot of people, you'll hear about people, you know, using it and what have you. If that is of benefit to you, as long as it is not creating unwanted, unexpected tension at points in your system, and if it is producing the benefit of more accurate pitch, better placement, then go for it. But you do have to be, and I'd encourage you to be, attentive to that it's not inadvertently creating, you know, as I said, unwanted tensions. David McCoy, I'm getting through these today. Question 5. David McCoy, how to start off when singing? Well, how do we start off when singing? Let me just go back to here. How do we start off when singing? Well, David, I'm so pleased you asked, because I'm going to a lot of trouble at the moment to start building this new course that is going to be called Dr. Dan, working title, Dr. Dan's Singer's Starting Guide. And it is going to literally step you through, step by step, over 5 modules, quite detailed. And we're going to step you through how to start singing. This is for someone who has had absolutely no experience opening their mouth to create a note. Like literally, yeah, I am going to literally teach you how to do that, what to do to achieve that end. Yeah. Then we're going to talk about yeah, how to actually sing a 5-note scale. Then we're going to look at voice anatomy. What is this thing that we're using, this instrument? What is that? Then we're going to look at vocal health. We're going to look at the things that can, you know, be really problematic for a singer, including diet and vocal pathologies like nodules and cysts, and we're going to look at that in depth. Then we're going to look at aesthetic versus function. You know, why do some singers who sound great run into functional problems? Like, you know, Adele's all over the news at the moment with her new album coming out. And, you know, why has Adele run into... I'm not necessarily going to speak in the course about Adele specifically, but Adele is one that is known to have had vocal health problems. And but there's no one questions the aesthetic value of her voice. But are there things that a voice can be doing functionally that can lead to problems? And so then looking at that function, well, how do we improve function? How do we develop technique? That will be module 4. And then module 5, I will literally walk you through a vocal warm-up. And what are vocal warm-ups? Vocal warm-ups, again, here's the pendulum swing. Vocal warm-ups, certainly in my online, you know, sphere, amongst singing teachers, again, is a hot topic of debate. Again, I'm a moderate. There are people claiming that you don't need the vocal warm-up, and I don't agree. I don't. You know, and so I think you do need to vocal warm-up. However, what I do agree with, and I think this is actually where this new argument is coming from, is that there is a massive difference between a vocal warm-up and a vocal technique workout. They are worlds apart. They are completely different things. And so in the course, I will talk you through all of that and talk you through how to do a vocal warm-up that prepares the voice for athletic use. We will talk about all of that in that new course coming out beginning of next year, hopefully towards the end of first quarter, beginning of second quarter in 2022. David, I hope that's helpful. Let's go to Titus Lee. How do you get over the nerves when singing, like a mix of nervousness and excitement and or eagerness as well? Titus, what I would encourage you to do is not, firstly, to, now, I'll answer, how do I answer this so that we don't create confusion? To directly answer your question, I can hear that you are obviously working on developing your ability to manage your performance anxiety. And that is that sort of, that positive tension that has you excited between wanting to do it because it's so thrilling, but also eagerly, deer in a headlight. So this is a pretty normal thing. This is very normal performance anxiety levels, especially for people starting out. One of the best ways to learn to manage that is going to come from your ability to just do it again and again and again. And you, by reason of use, you start to become a little bit more desensitized to that, fight or flight or freeze. And so that's what I'd encourage you to do. Do it more. Just do it more. Now, there, of course, is far more heightened experiences than what would be deemed normal, typical responses. And in those cases, often it's really important to go and speak with a psychologist, a performance-based psychologist, and even a sports psychologist who is a performance-based psychologist will be able to help you typically in that. And so I would be encouraging you to think about that. If your performance nerves are such that it's completely undoing you, speak to someone. You might even only need, a single session, but they may be able to give you really good keys and helpful tips to work through it. Beyond that simple tip that I've already given, that is, just do it. Get up there and do it again and do it again and do it again. And by reason of use, you'll desensitize to that experience. Okay, here's a name that I'm going to struggle to say. Joy Tiraditya Sanyal. Sanyal? I always give it a shot. How to sing loudly. Well, I've got a new video coming out in, I can't remember exactly, probably about a month's time. And I'm going to actually talk to you about how to sing loudly. It's a pre-recorded video that I want you to keep an eye out for, which you can do so by subscribing to the channel, hitting the white bell icon, and then you'll be notified of my new videos when they go live. But in the short term, how to sing loudly is all about balance. It's all about resonance enhancement. Most singers, when they first start this, learn to sing thing, they misappropriate their development of volume as effort. And so there is this exerted attempt to just drive the voice really hard. Actually, what I find when a voice does that, it will just be this case of continuing diminishing returns. And so what happens is we start to get swelling in the vocal folds, the larynx just starts to close down and compress, and we just get this diminishing return of volume, which means you're then pushing harder, which means and it's just all collapsing, it just spirals downward. Whereas if you're able to use a focused energy to the voice that has reduced air pressure, has good focus, we're essentially using a highly energized twang, then you're going to get more bang for your buck. It's more sustainable, it's more healthy, and that is going to give you a pretty good outcome. Ashley, I hope your knee has been repairing up well. Looking forward to our next lesson next week. I am going to start up in choir for church. How long should I practice? Well, I think if you're doing what we've already been doing together, Ashley, I think your vote, certainly from a technical standpoint, that's going to put you in pretty good stead. But also, you know, if you are wanting to spend more time working on the repertoire of the church choir, then, you know, a 5-minute, 10-minute warm up just to get the voice moving is going to be enough for you then to hopefully, and I think Ashley, you and I have done enough work together now where you could be hoping to sing for about 45 minutes to an hour of consistent practice on the repertoire. So that's where I'd be looking to go with that. Okay, here we go. Where am I going? Nizan Gaming. Hello, I would like to know how to know or feel when you support properly and produce resonance in your body, since I self-practice myself through your warm-up video. I'm glad you're finding that helpful. Really, Nizan, and you may hear this as me doing a big upsell, and that is not going to be my intention here. But really, the way for you to develop your capacities in this area is to develop your technique. There just aren't any shortcuts. And, you know, despite what you may be told by others, even here on YouTube, to develop, you know, your voice around resonance and what you're referring to as support, you have to travel the journey of developing technique. There are so many people, you know, I saw Alyssa here who earlier in the chat, Alyssa is one of my private students. I saw her this morning, and we were just talking about that even today, just stepping out the process, yeah. And I've just seen Karen in the chat, and Karen's saying we've got issues with the audio again, but I'm not getting that problem I'm not being notified about that, Karen, by Linda. So, okay, no, I've just seen Linda answer Karen in the chat. So apologies, everyone. This is live. Okay, Keegan. Hey, Dan, when I sing long notes, and this is coming up close to our last question for today, I think. Keegan, when I sing long notes like a G4, I always get a mad headache, and it's bad that it stops me from singing for around 10 seconds. Whoa, okay. Keegan, I'm lent to thinking either there is something about the resonance. My first thought is air pressure. Too much pressure. That's my first thought. The second thought is there can be something about your tuning of that resonance tuning of the vocal tract on G4. I want you to take notice for yourself over the next week and start to see, is there a particular vowel on which that you're experiencing this more so than on other vowels? And if that's the case, say for example, E is a really problematic vowel shape for you, and you're really getting that, what did you say, mad headache when you sing a G4 on an E vowel, then there is something about the tuning of that's causing your head to sympathetically, empathetically resonate, and that may well be what's contributing to your headache. But it would, as is often the case when we hang out together, there's probably not a Q&A go by where I don't have to say, I would have to have you in front of me and show me what you're doing for me to give you a really definitive answer. And even then, I may not be able to. Sometimes there are sort of some unknowns, and but we could certainly explore it together if that were the case. I think we'll leave it there for today. That was a good hangout. For those of you, there's a couple of other questions there that we're not going to get to today. But it was a good hangout. I hope you've enjoyed hanging out. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you've enjoyed hanging out. The last time I said, and make sure you hit the thumbs down button if you didn't. I actually got a couple of thumbs down. But, you know, I appreciate the feedback. I'm always keen to do things better and to develop this show, as you know. And I'm sorry that a few of you today were experiencing some laggy things, but I think that was a YouTube thing, perhaps. I don't know, because everything seems at my end seems to have gone well. Next week we're going to hang out with Jenny Reeves, a good friend of mine. We're going to talk young voice. Hey, even if you're not a young person, I know many of you aren't, still come in, still join in the conversation. You will learn something. And here's the thing, you may be able to learn something in hindsight about your younger self, which may give you some insight into your current self when it comes to your singing voice. And so I hope you'll consider hanging out with myself and Jenny next week, 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Important for all of my southern friends down in New South Wales and Victoria and Tasmania and the ACT here in Australia, because you're all on daylight saving now. Oh, I nearly forgot. And Linda was kind enough to remind me, to all of my Canadian viewers, those of us who are Canadian in the community, which includes Kathy and includes quite a few of you, happy Canadian Thanksgiving Day, I believe, is the case. I'm pretty sure that is. If not, you can blame Linda. She was the one that gave me a heads up. I'm pretty sure it is Canadian Thanksgiving Day. Happy Thanksgiving Day to you all. I hope you've all had a special time with family and friends in giving thanks for each other and for all that you have. And I hope you'll give thanks for today's show. I've enjoyed our hangout. I very much look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great week, everyone. I'll see you again soon. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.